In this lecture, you are going to learn how to use Vlookup and Hlookup functions. You use these functions to look up a data in a table and return a related value. Now let's get into it. The V stands for vertical in Vlookup function name. Let's say we have an employee dataset and we have a separate form where we want to select an employee from a drop-down list and get the related data from the left. You can create a drop-down list like this. Make sure you are on the cell where you want to create the drop-down. Let's go to Data and click on Data Validation. Here, from the drop-down, let's choose List. Click in the source field and select this range where the employee names are. Hit OK. And we have an employee drop-down. Now let's use the Vlookup function to get this data. I start typing the function name. It's very important that this function looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table. If you need to look for a value in other columns, you will need the index match function pair or the Hlookup function. Anyway, let's see these Vlookup arguments. The first one is the lookup value. We look for this employee, so I click on this cell. I hit comma. In the second argument, we have to define the range of our data. So I select this area. I hit comma. The call index num argument will be 2 because we'd like to return the age of the selected employee. The age is the second column in this selected range. I hit comma. This last argument tells Vlookup if we want approximate match or exact match. Most of the time you want an exact match. I'll show you an example for approximate match on the next sheet with Hlookup, but now I double click on exact match. I hit Ctrl Enter. And we got this employee's age. Let's choose another employee. And it works. I align these cells to the left. Now let me copy this formula and see if it works with the job title. We obviously have to change the formula. Nothing refers to the right place. We could rewrite the formula for this specific cell, but I like to use general solutions. I hit Escape and go back to our original formula. I click here and log the lookup value cell reference with F4. I select the second argument and hit F4 again to lock it as well. Now I hit Ctrl Enter. The formula still works. Now I can copy it again, and I just need to change the call index num argument to 3 to return the job title, which is in the third column. I hit Ctrl Enter. Let's test it. It works perfectly. Now I copy this formula downwards and change the call index num to 4. Hit Ctrl Enter. We need a date format on this cell, so I go to Home and set this short date format. Perfect. It works as expected. However, I'd like to point out an issue here and suggest a solution. What if we hire a new employee? Let me add an extra row here. our dropdown doesn't realize the change. Now you could go to change the data validation source reference and all the formulas, but that's just not nice from system design point of view. Let me undo some steps and show you a good practice. I have talked about the benefits of Excel table. We are going to utilize it. Make sure you are inside your dataset. Hit Ctrl T and click OK. Let's add a meaningful name to our table object. Let me choose a different table style. Unfortunately, Excel doesn't allow us to refer to this table column directly in the dropdown, so we need an intermediate step. We need to define a name object which refers to this column. Let's see the syntax of referring to this table column. I start a formula and select all the data in the first column. This is how it looks. I copy this reference to the clipboard. I hit Escape. Now let's go to Formulas and click on Define Name. I will call this object Employee Names. And I paste the reference from the clipboard. I hit OK. Now if I go to the Name Manager, you can see that we have our Excel table and this named range here. I close this window. Now I click on the Employee dropdown, go to Data, Data Validation, and here in the source field, I enter the name of the name object we just created. I hit OK. Now I add our trainee to the employees. And the list has been updated automatically, as well as the formulas. We have an empty row here that we can fix quickly by dragging the corner of the table upwards. Good. I'd like to point out that we have a list here where values are unique in the first column. Keep in mind that Vlookup with the exact match option returns the first match. If you have repetition in your data, the answer is not the Vlookup function. For example, if you had two employees with the same name, you would need to assign unique IDs to your employees and look for the ID instead. But that's a more complex task. Vlookup alone cannot solve it. Now if I hit delete in this cell, we get error messages here. If Vlookup doesn't find the lookup value, which is now an empty string, then it returns this error. You can handle this with the if-error function like this. So this is how you can use the Vlookup function. Now let's see what Hlookup is good for. Let's say we have a list of sales reps and their sum sales. We have a bonus table. We'd like to assign bonus percent for each person based on his or her performance. The Hlookup function is perfect for this. The H stands for horizontal in the function name. This function works the same way as Vlookup, but it looks for value horizontally in a row. Let's create our formula. Arguments are the same, we just need to translate them to this horizontal approach. The lookup value will be this cell value. The table array, the area where we are looking, will be this range. I hit F4 to lock this entire reference. Don't forget, we will copy this formula downwards. That's why we need this area logged. Now here is the difference. We need to define a row index num in this case. We need the value from the second row, so I enter 2 here. And in this case, we definitely need this approximate match option, so I enter true here. I hit Ctrl Enter. I copy this formula downwards. Let me format these fields as %, and I increase the decimal. Now the approximate match works this way. If the value that we are looking for reaches a grade, but it's still below the next one, then the corresponding % will return. It's pretty useful. There is one important thing to note. In case of approximate match option, you need to provide sorted data in the row here. Otherwise, it won't work properly. Alright. As usual, you can find this Excel file in resources. See you in the next video.